Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and wherever you are. This is JP here with Learn Breakdance, our first video for this channel. I'm very infamous for opening channels, and I hope that the promise of making this more no-coder friendly builder remains so that the channel also can remain. And what I want to do is for this alpha release, just go through a few sections and blocks that we build out, see how it works, put it through, the steps, have a look what's there, and also get your feedback on some things that I may be missing. I am impressed so far. There are a few bugs, but this is an alpha release. And then there are, I would say, a mountain of suggestions I would want to give to the developers, because with Oxygen, there was a definitive market which it was aimed at, but now it says I want to compete with Elementor. So I'm going to put it through that magnifying glass and be very critical of certain areas where I'm like, whoa, this is not beginner stuff. And other parts which will be very confusing. And I've picked up quite a number of that. We're going to make a very basic Euro section. I've done it. I forgot to put some space in there. I wanted to check the responsiveness, and that's why I'm showing you. Here you have a HD desktop display. Yep, pretty nice. And then over here, you've got a MacBook Air. I did it here on the iPad and then on the phone, and I forgot to play around with the image in the background. I hope to remember to do this. And a few bugs along the way. This is an alpha release. It's not ready to be used on a full site for the public yet. Play around with it. Go follow the link in the description below, and let's make this page builder great. Right, so let's jump into the page builder. I've already created this page. So you can see here in the top toolbar, currently I have a Euro page. This is the one we're working on, and then a one that I had worked on previously called First Install. You are greeted with this plus in the middle, and that's probably where everything starts, because you need to bring in a section before you can do anything else. If I click on it, it's going to open the elements drawer here on the left. Close it over here. I can also open that by clicking up here on Add. And the basics, this is where you're going to be working with most of your content builders, and you're always going to start with a section. To bring in the section, simply click on it. And then what I want to do next is bring in two columns, one on the left and one on the right. And I'm probably going to say my first comment here would be, I just clicked on section and now it gave me the options for section. But naturally, I want to add something to the section. So this shouldn't have switched. This should remain open so that I can bring in my columns now. Click on columns, and then I'm going to select two. Now again, I want to bring content into my columns. It's again switched to the options of the columns. I have to click on add again. This is a no-no. Try and keep this open. Select on page, gives me the options. I'm going to bring into this column a heading. You see there it does it again. Oh, let's just drag the heading in there. Click and drag. Let's make sure the heading is selected. Let's bring in another heading under that. Again, I have to click on add and then a button. Where's the button? Over here. Now to select our section, simply click on the section and you will see it says section there at the top. You can also open the structure panel on the right, and once it is selected, you will see it's highlighted in blue. Gives you a nice visual indication that it's been selected. I'll close it for now. And then how this works in, did I say bricks or oxygen at some point? This is breakdance. I have to remember that. Too many names. You have your options here, and then you have probably settings here. Or this is your content and styling. I think that should be content and styling. I think that is an artist's paint board, right? So styling, and this is your options on the right. Let's go to this. And naturally, we want to change the background, put in an image there, select background, and then type, select image, and then choose. And I already have this image that I've uploaded into my media library and drop it in there. From here, how do we work with this image? So the image size is the normal stuff that you get. What resolution do you want it at? I'll leave it at full. And then we have image settings. You can apply overlay and then a transition duration. Transition duration. Interesting. This one over there. For what? Image settings. Let's click on that. And we have the size, which you can see is not optimal. There is the image being repeated here on the right. It's set to contain. No, it's not set to contain. It's set to auto. I don't like it. It should be set by default to cover. That is my first piece of advice. No repeat. Then the position. It took me a long time to figure out that you can have a focal selector. You can put it center top. You can put it left center. And then the one I would prefer as a custom is this one here at the bottom that says custom. And if you didn't scroll down, you wouldn't know it. Now you get this focal selector where you can determine where the focus should be for each of your images in the background. Strangely enough, it does not generate another thumbnail here. So you have to drag this little dot around and look here at where you want it. So I want her eye. Yeah, it's not ideal. I wish there was a little one that we can have here. Then you have attachment. You can put it on scroll and fixed. And here's a strange one, unset image at. Unset image. I'm not entirely sure what that means. Leave me a comment in the description below as to what is unset image. Would love to know that. I hope we're going to get tons and tons of good documentation for breakdance so that we can learn all the moves. Yes, so we talked about you can apply an overlay. I'm not going to do that, but you will see that you have quite a few options here from an image to a gradient. For all intents and purposes, our background is done. Our section part is done. The only other thing I would do is probably want to apply more padding in the top and at the bottom. Now, as you know, in Oxygen, you can do that by selecting and then go to the top, click, hold, and drag. And the moment I do that, and I'll show you again with the bottom, and I'm dragging to around 175. And unfortunately, there is no way to control the increments. Here, my suggestion is that put a modifier key in there like Control or Shift that will allow you to keep it to increments of 5 or 10 and jump through that. What I want to show you at the bottom, if you go to the bottom, you will see that the padding starts at 0 pixels. But once I drag it, it jumps. So there's actually a default padding applied, which is also a little bit strange. So I want to do 1.25 and I'm going to struggle, and this makes my head go pop and I get a migraine very soon. So if you want that pixel perfect control over your padding, what you'll do is with your block, your section selected, go to the options in the sidebar. Let's close background and we go to spacing. And you'll note there's already that little dot next to spacing, which indicates that you've made changes to the default. Here in padding, you will now see the 175 applied and 125 at the bottom. Major request. I'm very, very unhappy when I don't have scroll features, right? Is there something? Let me hold in Control, Shift. Nope. This thing about typing stuff in and moving it up and down, archaic, man. Give us a little scrubber so that we can scrub it up and down. That, again, is nice to have for people who don't want to think about the numbers that they want to add there. Good. We'll come back to the responsive viewing later and change this image out. Let's select the first heading element. I'll click in there. And what will we type in here? Relax to the best you. Something like that. Observe what happens in the inspector on the left. There are now 3 tabs. The first one is going to be content, and then again styling, and then options. I like this layout. And then you have your text box here, and you can assign a tag. If I select H2, you will see that the text on the screen changes. And this is part of your global settings. We'll look at that, but I'm not going to worry too much about this now. I want to understand how the builder works. But for your reference, these little 3 dots up here, select that, advanced, headings, you're going to find it there. And I'm laughing because that is dive, Bobby, until you get it. That's quite hidden. Not a big fan of 1, 2, 3. plus that one is 4, 5. I understand you think probably that people who come from Elementor don't want to use all those deep dives, but that's way too deep. Anyway, let's close the global settings, but that's where you're going to set up the global settings for your H1 to H6. I'll put it on H2 and then I'll take manual control over it by going here. Here is the biggest confusion for me. I'm working with a heading and I see the word size. What do you think? I'm thinking font size, but Bobby, this is not font size. This is your container width. So you have it currently, I would say, set to default, which is going to be 100% of the column or stretched to the column. But then you have this control. You can see as I change it, you can go down as low as 300 pixels. The box, your flex box does change, or what kind of goes all the way, and it only does pixels. Because I'm not too comfortable 100% yet with this one, I will take out the settings here by clicking on that little dot and go back to the default. To change the font size, you select typography. Let's change the color first. I select here, move it to white. And once I've selected the color, you will notice I have a little plus here at the bottom, and I can make it a global color, and I'm going to call it white. And now this will be saved as a swatch that I can select in the future. Close. Alignment, let's leave it like that. What is this preset? Presets. Okay, no presets available. You can save your own presets, understand? You see here, save a preset, and then in the future, boom, Sabrina, you've applied it. Font family, same old guys here. Let's look for Josephine Sons. There we go. And then you have font size. I wish there were a little display here, placeholder for the defaults that Breakdance is using. Please, please, please. This just helps me mentally to understand from what baseline I'm working. You grab the slider and you start dragging, you start again small. And that's why I get confused. Let's type in there 60. We can go bigger than that. Let's go for 80. Be brave. We won't look at it now, but just note that you do have this little option here next to font size that will give you, when you select it, all the other responsive reviews that you can work with. Then your weight, it appears to be already set to 900, because if I select a default 400, 500, it changes because it is set as a heading. I guess that's why it's already here in the big, thick weights. Then under advanced, again, strange, I would just say more options. Advanced, I'm not too sure because it's line height and letter spacing and transform. And I don't think that is advanced. I think putting things in, all caps is standard. And that's what I will do here with transform. I'll select it. And then for the line height, I will put it on 1.2. Let's put it 1.1. That is M value. I guess that's what it is, custom M, because if I change from custom to M, it remains the same. And then the letter spacing, I think we can reduce it a little bit. Let's see if we can reduce it. Oh yeah, we can. See, and that's where the slider is going to be useless, because that slider doesn't go to the left. Right, we can do this. Looking at this hero section though, I want this to be in 2 lines. So I'm going to increase the width of the first column and reduce the one on the right. If I select the column, and I do that by clicking somewhere here, not here. This is what happened to me previously. I thought I was selecting the column. I wasn't. I was selecting the text. One feature that I really love in Oxygen, which I think can also be included here in Breakdance, is the breadcrumbs little display up here where you have section, column, heading. Easy navigation, and you can click on it and it will take you. In this case though, if you get a little confused, you have to go to structure and select from here. So if I wanted the section and the column and then this column, I'll have to go here if it was difficult to select it. I really missed that breadcrumbs feature. Loved it. With the column selected, you will see there's a handlebar that pops up. You can also link the one on the right, also a handlebar there. With that handlebar, you can go ahead, make sure you have that 4 arrow indicator. Otherwise, you're going to change the padding. Click, hold, and drag. And now you can see percentage values. And same complaint I have here is that it's not going to, you see how specific it is? And I get to 60 jumps every time. Okay, there we go. Nice. We have achieved that. It's over her eye now. Not the best of places, you know. Let's go for the next heading. And here I just want to add some subtext. I could have used the text element and a rich text element. You go to add, you will see we have text here as well as rich text. Let's do that. Let's click in the text and then delete this one. And to delete, very easy, simply right click and select delete. Let's choose the text element. Where is that? Over there. And I'll grab some lorem ipsum text here, copy that. And I can paste it here or paste it directly within the element, Control Command V. There we go. And let's change the typography, the color also on white. Also put it on Josephine. Oh, Josephine. And I'm going to put it on font size 16 just to show you. Oh, it is 16. Okay, so that is a good one for text element. And the weight, 400. So it's already set to 400. But here, I think the line height, way not correct. It should be at 1.6. So I'll go to advanced line height and type in 1.6. And why I choose 1.6 is that line height is usually 10% of your font size. So if it's 16, then your line height is 1.6. That's a good standard for when you're working with paragraph text. With this, if we take a step back, we will think and agree that there's too little space between these elements. To bring padding onto your page, you can simply select the element that you are working with, hover near the border at the top, and you will see there's a slight, small little purple bar that appears. It says 0 pixels. Click and drag that, and I'll bring in some padding. One of the things you do learn when you do it this way is not to care about each and every pixel, which is very difficult. I really care, and I try very hard not to be so, finicky over it, but I do struggle with it. We do the same for the bottom. Make sure it's selected and bring in some margin at the bottom. And you can go and check that within the inspector. So when we close typography, you will see spacing also has a little dot indicating we've made those changes. And then you'll see margin top and margin bottom. Now things get a little strange, and here I would really, or I guess I will need to spend a lot of time to understand a little bit of the mindset behind what is intended here. What I want to achieve, and let me just get my drawer here. Is everything select this one? Currently, I have this heading stretching all the way like so. But what is common in graphic design is when you have a little piece like this here at the bottom is to limit it to this width. So you leave that open, squash it in to the left. That gives a little bit more of an effect and spacing arrangement. Now, what I normally would do is give it a maximum minimum width or put in padding here on the right. But I don't see those features as easy features here. The one place we can go, and this is where the size comes in, is with this width. Still need to figure it out because at the moment you start dragging it, it goes, okay, there we go. It's a little bit different this time. So I can drag it to, let's say, okay, there we go. Say 400. Let's type it in 400. And that's what I want to achieve here. So interesting. And like I said, this is something I'll have to spend much more time with to really understand the purpose, or rather the thinking behind some of these features. And with that, I think I need to bring in a little bit more padding at the bottom. So let's take that to around almost 40. Let's make it more. Put the button over here. Let's work on the button X. Select the button. You can change the text here. You can also double click and can you? No, you cannot. So you have to change the text here in the sidebar. I'll make it all caps, view more, and then you will add your link in here. Not going to do that in this tutorial. Let's go style the button out. Right, another interesting experience. select button, and you have style here, primary, secondary, custom, and text. When I select primary, it's the one you currently see. Secondary, it's going to change. Custom is going to open this little selector for you, and then text is just going to be a text button. Primary and secondary takes us back to that one I showed you at the beginning, where you go to the toolbar at the top, at the right, and you select global settings, and over here, buttons. And this is where you're going to set up the primary and secondary. These are absolutely amazing. And I'm really, waxing lyrical, because when you have this and later on you want to make changes to your website, you don't need to go and change each one. You just come over here and you make the changes here. And we'll work with all of that. Close this out. I want to change the colors. So it took me a while to realize that would be custom, which is custom. But then surprise, after selecting custom, I have to select custom again. User experience, big no-no. The options should be down here. Now I get to all the functions I wanted. So I can change the background, and let's go and change the background to white. Okay, so we changed the background, and then typography is another click. So let's change that to black. And I'll just leave that. Don't go too deeply into that, but we have corners here that I want to change to square. I'm a square kind of guy. Well, this is a spa. Spa should be round, gives us a pill. And if you want slight corners or more control, you go to custom, and you'll see the moment I click custom, it gives that little bit of round again, and you can change the corner radius over here. If you want to go back to the default, simply go here to the little dot next to corners, click on the X to bring it back to the default. Lots of options here. Next, I want to apply a hover. Hover is hidden, and this is a little bit weird. If you go to background, because that's where we want to change the color, right, on the background, you're going to sit here and wonder, where is this hover? Hover over background, and you will see that little hand appears, and this is the hover state. So once you click it, it's going to give you the hover state. Again, because how do I know which of these have hover purposes? Look at that. I can hover over all of them. None of them give me that little hand. Then when I get to background, it hovers. This should be on by default then to indicate which ones can have hover effects. So I'll select that, go to the color, and let's put it then on something different just so that we can see the hover, and there it works. And now let's just deactivate the hover. And then, if I'm not mistaken, effects, then you go to effects, and this is where you have transition duration. And that is how quickly it goes from the default to the hover. If you put it all the way on 0, it is immediate, like so. You want a little bit more like that. That's very slow. So put it over there. And then you have scale on hover, which is pretty cool. But why is it going smaller? That's interesting. Oh, it's below 1 or bigger. And you can add a shadow here as well. This is going to take a little bit of getting used to, because things are a little bit hidden. There's a lot of diving that's going on here. And there can be many reasons for that. Freeing up real estate, because one of the things that you may have experienced in many page builders is that when you open something, it runs all the way down here. You have to constantly scroll, and get to it. It can be a little bit confusing. So closing out here, that's the button Lightbox. And spacing. So you have margin at the top and margin at the bottom. I haven't looked at Lightbox. I'm not going to look at Lightbox now. Very curious what the Lightbox is. We can do that in another tutorial. Interesting. I'll play around with that. Good. So we have completed everything very nicely for our desktop display. Let's save our work. Shortcut key is Control-S, Command-S. And now let's go have a look at responsiveness. Up here we have the monitor. If you click on it, it's on all devices. I set up this little one previously. I don't want that, so I want to just go and delete it so I don't confuse you. That's under Preferences, Breakpoints, and I'll delete it. Yep, go away, hey. Save that, close out, And now you see we only have the standard 5. First one is tablet landscape. I think in general this is okay. The only thing is I'll select a section and I'll add padding on the left and padding on the right. And somehow here I cannot drag on the left and the right. So for this, we'll have to go to size or spacing. And I'll add padding here. I'll put in 50 on the left and 50 on the right. I don't want this column here to appear on the others. And I mean, I didn't have to do that. I could have restricted that, but I used 2 columns just for the show of it. So I'll select this column, go to the more options, and then you will see you have the function hide on breakpoint. Nice that this is an obvious feature because often this is much hidden in many other builders. And then select and you choose on which of these you want the column removed. The one thing I'm not sure about, I'll have to look in the preferences, is I've hidden this now here, but it still appears there, which is confusing for graphic design if I want to look at my layout. I'm not sure if there is a function maybe in preferences. Let's see here. Disable show elements ID panel positions. No. Scale content to fit or to scroll. What I'm looking for is that when I hide something, it should also disappear from my canvas. This case, it didn't. Not sure. We'll see how that works. So I'm actually okay with this. I think the font size is okay. Everything else works here. And then we go to tablet portrait. I'm okay with this one as well. And then we go to phone landscape, which is blah, blah, blah. It's not working. This is not in landscape view. That is a bug in the alpha. And then phone portrait is where we want to be. So loads of changes we have to make here. First, select our heading. This is something that annoyed me in Oxygen, bothering me here too. I don't know what is my font size. I remember now it's 80, but it would have been nice if we had a little indicator there showing us, it is 80. Then I know I can go down to something like 40. I'll keep this one. I know that is 16. And then I think the rest is fine. What I wanted to show you, click again on the heading element, and you will notice here that you also have access to change the responsive parts by selecting these little guys and cycling through all the various displays. And what I like is if you select it for the font size, you will see that here the font size is blue. And that tells you you've made changes to the font size only in this responsive display. The other thing that I really also like, which is a feature every page builder in the world should have, and that is this modified option down here. You often make a lot of changes and you can't remember where those changes are. Let's just click outside here on something else, click back here. You don't remember all the changes you've made. Let's go to desktop. When you click on modified, it's going to filter and leave you with all the changes you've made from the default. And you can see it over here. Let's close this. How do I close this? Do I just select add and close it? Okay, that's interesting as well. I can select. Okay, so with my options selected, I simply select this little pencil, what is that, edit, and it will give me my full canvas. Let's save the work, Control-Command-S. And to preview it, there is no dedicated preview here. You have to go to the front end, but there's a workaround for that. You go to the X up here, and you will have exit to front end and exit to WordPress. So exit to front end, if you want to keep your builder open, hold down Control or Command on a Mac and click on it. It's going to open a new tab in the browser and you can test it from here. I'll select this link and then I'll go into my developers tool, which is Sizzy, and I'll paste it, which is exactly the same URL. So that was the one I had worked on previously. Let's see how this all translates now. Brilliant. Nice. I'm not too worried about the eye though. I didn't think too much when we were setting this up. But if I look here at the mobile, maybe too much padding at the top and the bottom. And I suspect I need to reduce the text size here. I prefer always to check small mobiles so that I know it's going to look good on that. And I don't mean small devices, I mean narrower resolution displays. Like this is 360 pixels. So I think need to do a little bit of change over there. Let's go back and we select phone portrait. Let's go to our settings. Section is selected. We go to spacing. We put 25 padding at the top. Now that's too little. Let's make it 50. Let's give it a 75. And at the bottom, I'll also put in 75. And then on the sides, I'll put in 25 and 25 because it remembered the 50 pixels that I gave it at the very top level when we were working in the desktop view. Save that and back to Sizzy. Let's reload this and see how. Okay, we can add a little bit more space, or we can even restrict the width here of this function. I think one thing I forgot to mention, and that is if we go back to desktop, we had 2 columns. And I remember that's why I brought in 2 columns. I wanted to show you this concept. The moment, though, that we went into tablet landscape, these 2 columns stacked. And this is a feature that is common in how we design, and it should be for mobile design. But this is where I guess the developers are differentiating between Breakdance and Oxygen. If you want to make changes to that, go to your structure panel and select the columns element. It's not that easy to select the columns element. Usually you will end up selecting one of the columns. So it's best to select the columns element from here. Go to the sidebar on the left, select layout and force vertical stacking. That's what's happening now. And if we say tablet landscape, no, tablet portrait, only from tablet portrait. So it's when it starts. This is a little bit confusing, but when it should start from tablet portrait. So with that, you will see select tablet landscape, it forces it. If I put it on tablet portrait, it means it will only start from here to force the vertical stacking. So it seems this is not something you can do on a 1-by-1 basis. It filters top down, but just so that you understand from where this stacking comes. But I'm going to clear this out. I actually like it stacked on those devices at all. That is our first video in the Let's Build Alpha series. If you have any tips, drop them in the description below. Very excited about this product. It's very quick. From me, JP, go well, stay safe, and see you in the next video.